Zelensky is not a proper person. Hello there, you awakening wonders. As Western leaders continue to pour extraordinary sums of money into Ukraine, despite mounting evidence of entrenched corruption at the highest levels, is the narrative surrounding Volodymyr Zelensky finally impossible to uphold? Is it collapsing, in short?
Last Friday, the country was shocked by the exit of President Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, also Ukraine's second most powerful man. He resigned after the state anti-corruption body raided his home.
For years, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been presented in Western media as the heroic face of democratic resistance, even though he speaks a bit like a Dalek. Any suggestion of corruption or misuse of Western funds was dismissed as propaganda. Look, I'm going to elaborate on it. This is a Dalek.
Ultimate destiny.
This is Zelensky.
Becomes inevitable.
Dalek.
Please excuse me.
Zelensky.
BlackRock, JP Morgan.
Dalek.
Exterminate.
Zelensky.
Give us a credit.
Dalek. Too similar. Yet the facade is now cracking. In a striking turn, the New York Times, of all of the institutions in the world, has acknowledged that Zelensky and his top aides facilitated the siphoning of billions in aid. The racists. Do you remember, you couldn't say stuff like that. You couldn't say like missiles are cropping up in cartel hands. You couldn't say about the pipeline and all that. The paper that once championed him is now documenting how his administration systematically, hydromatically, grease lightning sabotaged anti-corruption mechanisms, sidelined oversight boards and cleared the path for embezzlement, the worst of the bezelments.
The scandal centres around Timur Mindic, Zelensky's former media business partner, and a number of cabinet members, including former Deputy Prime Minister Alexei Chernyshev. The group were accused by investigators of embezzling public money that should have been spent on repairing Ukraine's energy grid. Then, on Friday, Zelensky's chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, was raided. It's not confirmed if it was in connection with the energy scandal, but he has since resigned. All involved are close to Zelensky.
Even long-standing defenders in the legacy press are beginning to concede what critics have argued since the beginning of the war. The Times investigation describes as deliberate dismantling of guardrails meant to prevent abuse of Western money. Leaders in Kiev even rewrote company charters, says the Times, to limit oversight, keeping the government in control and allowing hundreds of millions of dollars to be spent without outsiders poking around, the report notes. Supervisory boards and key institutions, including the state-owned electricity provider, were neutralised. The outcome was predictable. A corruption scandal has erupted involving Zelensky's inner circle and the embezzlement, that's embezzlement, baby, of $100 million from Ukraine's state-owned nuclear company. Despite these revelations, European governments continue to provide Ukraine with vast sums of money. NATO leaders recently agreed to commit more than $1 billion each month for new weapons.
What is Zelensky? In America, he's a hero.
Here's friend of the show, Gavin DeBecker, on Joe Rogan's show, offering the most brilliant analysis of Zelensky's rise and what Zelensky is really. Incredible.
So he was a totally apolitical, he was an outsider to politics, zero experience or interest in government or politics. He was a comedian, and with no manifesto, no party ties. And he does a TV show, a planned TV show, called Servant of the People. And the main character in the show does a YouTube video that calls out oligarchs and corruption and eventually becomes popular and is drafted as a protest candidate and eventually becomes president. So Zelensky played on a TV show a person who becomes president by popular demand. In real life, the TV show is supported by an oligarch named Kolomoisky, who owned the TV channel. And Kolomoisky did a huge nonstop promo on that TV show to make it the #1 show. Primetime slots and ads everywhere and crossovers with the news and what have you. 2018, a year before the show goes off the air, Zelensky forms a political party called Servant of the People, the same title as the show. And in no press release, secretly done, and then he does another season of the show, and in April of 2019, he announces his actual candidacy on Instagram. He has no campaign, no rallies, no real platform. He skips the presidential debates. Others attended. He avoids press conferences, and the few that he did were in the beginning were really bad. And Kolomoisky's TV channel gave Zelensky's campaign endless airtime. And favorable polls and went after his enemies. The U.S. intelligence agencies, CIA and NSA, helped. U.S. spending $5 billion, by the way, on democracy campaigns in Ukraine, funneled through NGOs. And USAID embeds advisors in his organization to help with the campaign. I'm almost done. And on election day, Zelensky wins with 73% of the vote.
Zelensky came to office 6 years ago on a wave of popular revulsion against corruption. For decades, Ukraine has been synonymous with the word, and Zelensky's promise of a new leader untethered to the system led to a landslide. Now, that bubble has burst bitterly.
Officials acknowledge the corruption but claim that the risk must be tolerated. Gotta tolerate the risk. Gotta tolerate them. The pattern is not new. During the Vietnam War, the Pentagon Papers exposed how successive administrations concealed billions in US funds being lost to corruption within the South Vietnamese government. Yet the war effort continued. In the 1980s, the Iran-Contra affair pulled back the curtain, or you could say, if you wanted to, foreskin. If you wanted, you can say it. You can say it's not illegal to say. You could say pull back the curtain. Or if you wanna, because you're free, you can say pull back the foreskin. I mean, it makes it a bit silly, even though we're doing some good research here, and this is a good article, isn't it? You can say the Iran-Contra affair pulled back the foreskin on secret funding networks operating in Central America. The scandal exposed the diversion of money, all this is still true, from weapon sales to Iran in order to finance the Contra rebels in Nicaragua. It showcased how shadowy financial channels hidden from public oversight could flourish under the cover of national security. The parallels to Ukraine's supervisory boards being stripped of authority are difficult to ignore for anybody. Similarly, after the US invasion of Iraq, sums of reconstruction money simply disappeared. Poof, like that. Billions in cash. Shipments went unaccounted for. And many of the officials who benefited were supported directly or indirectly by Washington, with oversight failures brushed aside as the cost of maintaining influence in the region.
In both America and Europe today, the picture of what Mr. Reagan has been doing with Iran has finally begun to clarify. Mr. Reagan's change of heart on Iran seems to have been triggered after the TWA hijack to Beirut. Iran helped free hostages then.
News was amazing, even hostage attacks. There you go, look, he's got a gun against that fellow's head. This is what we're dealing with. It's 1985. You cannot trust these bloody Iran-Contras.
And the White House saw an opportunity. This is where Israel came into the picture.
Oh, okay. I thought this was going to be some uncontroversial historic 1980s fun news, but here we go.
According to the Washington Post, Mr. David Kimchi of the Israeli Foreign Ministry suggested arms and spare parts as a way America could show good faith to Iran.
Arms and spare parts.
By September, it said, the first delivery was underway, flown from Israel via Portugal to Tehran. The authoritative Madrid newspaper El País says at least 5 American arms flights went to Tehran from Spanish airports in the past 2 years.
This is amazing. This is the sort of stuff that's happening all the time now because of online media. What the hell is that Egyptian jet doing there in Utah? This doesn't make sense. How extraordinary. Why would Russia blow up their own pipeline? Really, all it is now we've got a million monkeys in real life at typewriters continually, and once in a while you get the perfect works of Shakespeare.
By the spring, Mr. McFarlane was in Tehran itself on a secret 4-day mission. More arms followed in the summer, and another hostage was freed, the Reverend Lawrence Jenko. Then this autumn, the same again, apparently another delivery, another hostage out of Beirut, Mr. David Jacobson. Thus, the two most outspoken opponents of international terrorism, Israel and the United States, participated in moving arms shipments to Iran despite an American-imposed ban on doing so. Any link to hostage releases is still denied.
Amazing, extraordinary. Pay attention.
My fellow Americans, I've said on several occasions that I wouldn't comment about the recent congressional hearings on the Iran-Contra matter until the hearings were over.
Amazing. Some of the tactics remain consistent. I'm not even going to comment on that Epstein business. I'm not even going to dignify that with a response. Yeah, that's not working. I went on that fucking island.
Well, that time has come, so tonight I want to talk about some of the lessons we've learned. But rest assured, that's not my sole subject this evening. I also want to talk about the future and getting on with things because the people's business is waiting.
Oh my God, it's the same. It's the same, isn't it? If you compare Reagan's handling of Iran-Contra and then look at the current White House's handling of the Epstein files, do you note the tactics are pretty similar. Like, look, we don't need to talk about this. I don't want to dignify a response. So there's more important things than this.
These past 9 months have been confusing and painful ones for the country. I know you have doubts in your own minds about what happened in this whole episode. What I hope is, not in doubt, however, is my commitment to the investigations themselves. So far, we've had 4 investigations by the Justice Department, the Tower Board, the Independent Counsel, and the Congress.
We're in control of all of those.
I requested 3 of those investigations, and I endorsed and cooperated fully with the 4th, the congressional hearings, supplying over 250,000 pages of White House documents, including parts of my own private diaries. Once I realized I hadn't been fully informed, I sought to find the answers. Some of the answers I don't like. As the Tower Board reported, and as I said last March, our original initiative rapidly got all tangled up in the sale of arms, and the sale of arms got tangled up with hostages. Secretary Shultz and Secretary Weinberger both predicted that the American people would immediately assume this whole plan was an arms for hostages deal and nothing more. Well, unfortunately, their predictions were right. As I said to you in March, I let my preoccupation with the hostages intrude into areas where it didn't belong. The image, the reality of Americans in chains, deprived of their freedom and families so far from home, burdened my thoughts, and this was a mistake. My fellow Americans, I've thought long and often about how to explain to you what I intended to accomplish, but I respect you too much to make excuses. The fact of the matter is that there's nothing I can say that will make the situation right. I was stubborn in my pursuit of a policy that went astray.
Isn't it with Reagan? All of this is happening. So much has passed in the interim, and I still think, primarily, what a fantastic head of hair. Ukraine now appears to be repeating these stinking patterns. Before the war, it was already considered one of the most corrupt countries in Europe. I like that. Look at this comparison between how the crisis, one liberal UK newspaper reported on the same subject. This is brilliant. Obviously, it's good because it's a diagnostic tool for bias. Before the Ukraine crisis, the Guardian says, "Welcome to Ukraine, the most corrupt nation in Europe. The fight for Ukraine is a fight for liberal ideas." It's amazing. And of course, what they would say at the Guardian is, yeah, but everything changed because, Zelensky was changing Ukraine, and Ukraine wanted to join NATO and modernise. But another argument would be, you can't trust the media. The Pandora Papers revealed offshore networks and questionable business dealings surrounding figures close to Zelensky. The infusion of hundreds of billions of dollars since 2022 did not transform the system. Instead, according to the New York Times, who you men are like, because, the old days, it enabled the very people responsible for reform to entrench themselves further and profit from the chaos. Yet portions of the US media continue to deflect attention. While the Times investigates Ukrainian graft, popular hosts such as Rachel Maddow and Stephen Colbert revive the familiar narrative that Donald Trump is compromised by Russia. You remember, they said he got wee-weed on, stuff like that. The message is clear. Don't look too closely at where your tax dollars are going. Focus instead on a story that's never been substantiated just because there's wee-wee in it. Well, I need more. More than wee-wee.
Russia is a podunk country. They're a huge landmass, largest physical country in the world. They've got an economy like the size of Italy, right? They've got a kleptocratic, sclerotic government run by a guy who's never going to leave until he dies. The idea that we work for him, that we work for them, is so humiliating and is such an abject failure on the part of Trump in terms of his weakness. I don't know what Putin has on him, but he works for Putin, and it's an embarrassment to this country.
I'm not taking those people seriously anymore, are you? I just refuse the Colberts, the Maddows. It's over for them. The unravelling of the Zelensky narrative raises a fundamental question. If the country was mired in corruption before the war, and if its leadership has spent years dismantling oversight while receiving unprecedented foreign funding, and we know that stuff happened in the past, how deep does the rot go now? Western governments justify the flow of money on the grounds of defending democracy. Like always, democracy, got to defend democracy. Yet the evidence suggests that those funds have bolstered a system that undermines the very values it claims to protect. Wow, hypocrisy, irony, lies. The historical record's clear. When vast foreign resources collide with weak institutions and geopolitical urgency, there is corruption. Ukraine is following the same script, and the consequences are only beginning to surface, and people that were ages ago raising questions like good old Rusty here, will we be proven right, or will we just be rounded up and put in jail? I don't know. Why don't you decide? Let me know in the comments and chat what you think. Remember, support us by being a member of Rumble Premium. I'll get loads of money to fight my various court cases, and also support Reborn. You could get a Jeep. I drove here in it today. I'll be honest with you, it's dangerous. The Jeep's dangerous. The thing is that the dashboard is too bright and the windows are too tinted. But it's a cool Jeep, and you get 10 grand in cash, presumably to pay for the medical care from the numerous inevitable accidents. Get yourself a dangerous Jeep and a barrel of cash and support old Rusty while doing it, because we are in a war. We're serious about this stuff. Do you think we're not willing to die for it? There's not one of us who is not willing to die for the cause.
I'm not.
Oh yeah, no, this one. But other than that, we're tight. More important than any of that, stay free. Thanks for watching the video. Have a look at this one over here, or join us Monday, Wednesday and Friday on Rumble.